What's up, guys? It's Brittany, and welcome to another episode of One Hot Mess. So, today we are going to talk about ghosting, why people ghost others, and how it makes them feel, avoiding confrontation, but ignoring the cost. We can all agree that receiving the silent treatment, it can be extremely painful or infuriating. It leaves no space for discussing what the problem is. And it leaves those receiving the silent treatment distressed and feeling punished. And in the recent years, a new term, ghosting, has been used to describe the process of being cut off abruptly and without explanation by others. And this can happen not only in dating situations, but also between friends and family members, because this happens so frequently and leads so many to feel the pain that rejection inevitably will cause. And researchers, they're trying to understand the process more thoroughly. There was a recent study that was conducted in 2023, and the interviews of 34 undergraduates who had ghosted others were analyzed. And from this group, 68% of participants identified as female, while 32% identified as male. Additionally, 65% of participants identified as Latina, and then 15% as Asian American, 12% as African American, and 3% as European or European American, and 3% as Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, and 3% as Middle Eastern. So clearly this differs from the largely Caucasian groups who are often in studies, and this study will need to be replicated on such samples in the future. But they looked at the aspects of ghosting. They were interested in learning about the reasons that ghosters cut people off and their attitudes toward ghosting, and how the ghosters experience the consequences of the ghosting process. And the results were interesting and may help us not only understand the process of ghosting, but also understand the type of person who is likely to ghost. Now, why do people ghost to begin with, right? Oh, my bad. The most frequently cited reason for ghosting was because of a clear cause, including incompatibility, clinginess, inappropriate behavior, okay? Or unreciprocated feelings. And the second most common reason was to avoid confrontation. The third most common reason was short-term orientation. And this referred to not wanting a relationship with the ghostee, but instead wanting some sort of short-term interaction, such as physical connection. The fourth most frequently described reason for ghosting was feeling that the ghostee didn't meet their standards or was socially inferior. The ghosters referred to the ghosties as needy, pushy, annoying, insecure, jealous, and a whole host of other undesirable descriptions. The third most common reason was their term is the word, orientation, and this referred to not wanting a relationship. I just said that. Did I not just repeat that? Oh my God. Anyway, my bad. Wanting some. Okay, so anyway, moving on because I messed up there. My bad, guys. So anyway, yes. Some described having a fear of commitment, but in general, the ghosters are probably not the partners for you. And the takeaway is that if you're looking for a relationship, then consider looking in a different direction. So let's talk about the ghosting process. Interestingly, most of the ghosters did not begin the cutoff process by blocking. They described initially trying to just ignore the ghostee, but then they moved on to blocking if the ghostee continued their attempts to communicate. Fucked up, right? And they reported that the ghosties attempted several methods of communicating, including reaching out to mutual connections, directly communicating, and or via whatever social media activity. And sometimes the ghosters experienced stalking and would then move on to blocking. So yeah, the takeaway here is that if one or two of your attempts to interact are met with a lack of response, then move on from your ghoster. It's just simply obviously not a good fit. Let's not be stalkers, all right, guys? It is not cute. It is not a good look. So, consequences for or of ghosting for the ghosters. Ghosters describe feeling a variety of emotions post ghosting. Their emotional experiences, they're complicated. So, on the one hand, they describe feeling relieved and happy. On the other hand, they report feeling guilty, remorseful, regretful, sad, and even bad. Many justify their behavior by engaging in cognitive dissonance. An example of that might be that the ghostee was a bad person who didn't get the message and needed to be cut off by all necessary measures. Over time, some ghosters developed more remorse about having hurt someone, while others became more pleased with their decision. There was even a subgroup of ghosters who reported having no feelings at all. What the hell? I mean, what? That's hard to imagine, but it was clearly their experience. And most of the ghosters did recognize that they were hurting others, and they reported understanding that direct communication is ideal, but nonetheless engaged in avoidant behavior. So the takeaway here is primarily for ghosters. Basically, you are depriving the ghosties of closure, and lack of closure is very freaking painful, okay? Chances are that ghosters will at some point be ghosted. So it's important to recognize the effects of your own actions. So there's your little bit of knowledge on, why people ghost and blah, 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 blah. I feel like it could have been a little more informative, but I apologize. So, okay, so yeah, I have a few different things that we can talk about. And I don't know exactly if I want to, let's see which direction to go in. Okay, we got ways to recover from being ghosted, psychological truths about ghosting. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, the terms of non-commitment, ghosting, breadcrumbing, and other non-committal behaviors. I think we might do that one. Or yeah, I think we're going to hit up that one because I like it. Okay. I think you guys will enjoy it also because breadcrumbing, why do I keep saying breadcrumbing? That's very weird. Anyway, breadcrumbing is like a new term to me. I've only heard it a couple times. So, disappearing acts and being strung along in careers and relationships. We're going to talk about that. And being ghosted is often a reason for initiating an act of ghosting on someone else. Ghosting, breadcrumbing, and orbiting are new terms of non-committal behaviors. And all of these behaviors are increasingly normalized. Like, what the hell? Have you been the recipient of one too many disappearing acts, like no-shows or mysteriously broken commitments? Ghosting, defined by Merriam-Webster as to suddenly cut off all contact with someone, well, it now seems to happen shamelessly in our close relationships as well as our careers. And ghosting is truly on the rise with employees as well as job seekers. Two-way street. In February of 2021, it was stated that 77% of job seekers have been ghosted by a prospective employer, yet 76% of employers have been ghosted by a candidate or new hire who no-showed. And in the world of dating, though there may have been a temporary dip in ghostings during the first months or the pandemic or whatever, a recent study indicated that those who have been ghosted are likely to initiate ghosting on someone else. So it appears that the normalization of ghosting in one area of life, such as career or business, it affects how we treat our other relationships. So maybe Justin Timberlake was right. What goes around does come around, right? Anyway, in reading some more studies, learned that the disrespectful act of ghosting has a few close cousins, okay? And discovered 3 related terms, which is breadcrumbing, submarining, and orbiting. And these names perfectly illustrate the transactional behaviors that seem to be escalating, especially on social media. With one-click solutions, we can rid ourselves of anyone we no longer need or like without any explanation, closure, or accountability. Who needs a conscience with tools like these, right? So, breadcrumbing is when someone appears to engage with you by leaving a trail of breadcrumbs, like little tidbits, but never really commits to anything solid or specific. And this pattern is often called stringing someone along or keeping options open. And then there's submarining. Without notice, someone vanishes into a long period of non-communication, such as going off the radar or diving deep into the void. And then suddenly they resurface again and reach out again as if nothing ever happened. Freaking rude. Orbiting, circling around someone online, following with likes, making your presence known, but never really making serious contact. As an orbiter, your intentions may be good as well as not so helpful, but certainly you are never reachable when that person you are or orbiting tries to contact you with a phone call and real life encounter. So, in short, you're playing hard to pin down, but easy to be seen everywhere. So, indeed, ghosting or ghosters often end up being orbiters, keeping an eye on you. Ooh. So, guys, the bottom line here is these transactional behaviors are fast becoming normalized as ways to treat one another as expendable commodities. And even though we are supposed to believe that, not taking it personally is the cure for all manner of disrespectful human deeds, same thing. The truth is, this, well, it does hurt on some level because as humans, we are hardwired for it to hurt. We might rise above it, wear the bigger pants, dust ourselves off, and move on. But a ghosting by someone who was once close to us can still haunt us at 3 a.m. in a bad dream. Humans are biologically invested in forming relationships and not meant to be cut off suddenly or left hanging in oblivion. Up until smartphones and social media, people didn't just disappear quite like that, and they were more likely to be shamed if they did run away, pull a no-show, or drop out without a decent explanation. All right, so let's talk about how ghosting, breadcrumbing, orbiting, and submarining can hurt us. Well, first things first, there is real physical pain when we are ghosted, shunned, flat out rejected, or just left hanging. Physical and emotional pain are quite the same in our brains, according to MRI studies reported by the APA since the early 2000s. Number 2, confusion, lack of closure, or no resolution can trigger self-doubt. Hanging in limbo. We don't know what to do or how to respond. Left in the murkiness, our inner demons or inner critics have the opportunity to run away or run around crazy in the shadows of our headspace. And given the uncertainty of the pandemic and all that has gone on since, we may already have felt lost or unsure of ourselves. And those of us who battle PTSD, depression, or social anxiety may be even more haunted by these inner voices piling on after someone has ghosted or breadcrumbed us. So in short, without closure and clarity, we might default to finding something to blame in ourselves. All right, so number 3 is an increase in a sense of loneliness and isolation. A year's worth of ghostings, breadcrumbings, and submarinings can leave us feeling disconnected, isolated, and discouraged from trying to meet. Sorry, guys. I cannot keep my concentration today because I don't know what is up with me. But, okay. From trying to meet new people, because these feelings can be difficult to share with others, we might hide our loneliness and put a fence around ourselves. Staying home and Netflix, a cat on our lap, and a bowl of ice cream can be a lot more satisfying than putting yourself out there. Number 4, we may actually be going through grief. This could be disenfranchised grief, which is a term coined by grief researcher Kenneth Doka in his book in 1989, Disenfranchised Grief, Recognizing Hidden Sorrow. True grief reactions can develop on many levels, and it's not just a matter of getting over it. You know, you may be suffering through your own individual stages of grieving with a messy mix of shock, anger, bargaining, sadness, or breakthrough periods of acceptance. And no one goes through these stages in any particular order, but you might recognize your feelings as a legitimate grief response to a significant loss. Okay, so now here are some losses you might be grieving in relationships as well as your career. Loss of trust. You feel betrayed, manipulated, or misled. So you are grieving the loss of trustworthiness in that person or group. Loss of hope in the decency of people. You rationalize that you must lower your expectations for future encounters. Or worse, you write off most human beings as selfish, flaky, mean, or some other not so kind attributes. Loss of initiative. Alongside a lack of hopefulness, you just don't want to try so hard anymore to do the right thing. Why bother to reach out to others? Why be so thoughtful and considerate in your correspondence? Loss of a relationship. Whether you have bonded with a dynamic business partner or treasured a long friendship or feel super excited by new romance. Any erratic behavior that forces a loss makes grieving particularly difficult. So acknowledge and name what has happened. First of all, call it out and give it a name. Did you recently get ghosted, breadcrumbed, submarined, or orbited? We can also honestly name our responses, such as grief, bitterness, fear, and we can express our raw reactions in a journal or an art form or share our story with a trusted friend. It can be very helpful to ask someone to give you a reality check or to hear their point of view of the rude behavior that you have encountered. So see the bigger picture, and learn how to spot these problematic behaviors in your personal and professional circles. Because, as you know, it's not about you. It helps to learn more about these societal habits and unhealthy social media trends, clearly identifying unethical behaviors and examining how to avoid work cultures or dating cultures where these behaviors run rampant. Aim to uphold your integrity and moral character. So declare your intentions to continue to be decent and considerate in your interactions. There's no need to lower your standards just because so many others don't care. You can claim your integrity because you didn't allow yourself to cave or flake or be a jerk under pressure. And be sure to prioritize your mental health. If this experience continues to haunt you or has triggered you too much, you know the deal. An honest talk with someone who you trust or some kind of therapy may help. So set aside time to discuss ways to prevent further hurt from ghosting and similar behaviors. Do we really want to treat each other like devices to be tossed like a spent burner phone? Definitely not. So let's stand up against the normalization of treating people badly or like shit. All right, y'all? Okay. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode all about ghosting and breadcrumbing and orbiting and submarining. Yes, I remembered. And all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to hit that follow button and please share one hot mess with a friend. And I will talk to you guys later.